Hi guys. Today I'm going to talk about how I got into Bain, front-end management consulting, being a chartered accountant, even without a rank. So these are the things that I'll be covering in the video, the recruitment process that I went through with Bain. First is CV shortlisting. So it is a very important step, and so I'll make a detailed separate video on it. Then is the preparation strategy will be covered in the next slide, and the case interviews. Moving on to preparation strategy, this is the strategy that I followed and it worked for me. So the first step is selecting the right study material for you. So there are three sources that you can primarily refer to. One are the various books that are available, the consulting books available from various B schools. Second can be YouTube videos. There are a lot of videos available which you can refer to. And the third would be doing a course through various sites like Udemy, Coursera. So having done all three of them, I would suggest you to only refer to the first one, to only stick to the first one, that is study from these books by yourself. But if you're not able to understand anything, any particular case study or any particular framework, then maybe you can refer to certain YouTube videos. That would be my recommendation. Then going on to the books that I referred. So I did almost all the books that were available on the internet. So all the books that are available from various B schools like IM, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Lucknow, Calcutta, FMS, ISB, and SRCC. So I did almost all the books that are available on the internet. So if you don't have that much of a time at your hand, then the frameworks that I chose were from majorly two books. One is SRCC and the another is IM Ahmedabad. So I picked certain points from one book, certain points from another book for a particular kind of case study, and then I made a framework of my own so that it is more MECE, that is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. So you can do that too. So these are the two books from whom I refer the frameworks for. So they have excellent frameworks. So you can also refer to those two books if you don't have much time. Then moving on to the second step, that is self-study. So you start by going through these books. You read the case problem. You go through the frameworks. You study the solutions like a typical question and answer round. You just study, study, study. You just read everything initially if you know nothing about consulting. Like I knew nothing about consulting. So I used to read the questions, see what framework they formed, and then also go through the actual transcript of the interview. That is the format that you need to follow initially so that you can start getting more ideas as to how to arrive at a final answer. So, majorly there are these kind of case studies. So, typically start with the profitability case because that is easier and makes more sense because it has a definitive structure. For example, you divide profit into revenue and cost, and then you go from there. You make separate buckets. So profitability is an easier case. So you start with that. Then you move on to market entry, market growth, pricing. And then having done these four major kinds of cases, you then move on to guesstimates, which are very, very important because they are a part of almost all the case studies that are asked from you during the case interviews in some way or the other. So they may not give you a separate guesstimate only case, although they might give you that also because some of my friends were asked only a guesstimate case study. But for me, they were a part from my major case only that they'll give you a certain section to estimate. So guesstimates are really very important and they're easy to do also, so don't skip them. And then are the unconventional cases. So the earlier types of cases are hardly asked directly in a case interview because the interviewers usually ask you the questions or the case problems that they're facing in a real life, in a real case scenario. They'll give you that question. So, but having said that, it does not mean that you completely rule out the earlier cases because for me, the first interview question was a profitability case. Although it was not a typical one, it was not covered in any of the books, but it was a profitability case. You cannot rule that out. Go through frameworks of each and every type of case study that is available. And then unconventional, one thing that I really want to cover is investment decision because it is hardly covered in any of the books. So you can search for it specifically over the internet. But I was asked about an investment decision in two rounds out of four that I had. So you cannot rule that out completely. Yeah, it is unconventional. It is hardly asked, but it was asked from me. And because I knew that I got through Bain, I would say. Then our mergers and acquisition, again, they're hardly asked, but if they are asked, you need to at least know the framework if you're not able to practice case interviews. And then are the abstracts. So once you've done all these cases, if you don't have much time of going through each and every book, you can just refer to one or two books, make it your base, and then after that, what you can do is that you can refer only to the unconventional cases from other books, because you'll find something new, something or the other. Then coming back to my preparation strategy, the third step and the most important step is self-assessment. So after you feel that you start getting a hang of things and now you know at least the frameworks of the major case studies, start self-assessing, because most of the times you won't have the time to practice with someone else. So that time self-assessments help the most. So what you do is you just read the case problem. What I used to do was I read the case problem and then I try to make a solution in my mind, because I was practicing case studies when I was traveling to and from office in metros. So I didn't even have the the convenience to write the answers. So I used to make up a solution in my mind about the case problem. So that is what I used to do, and that helped me a lot more than even the case interviews I practiced with someone else. So self assessments are really very important. They help you assess kind of that where you actually stand and are you able to completely solve and arrive at a final solution. So more often than not, your final answer won't match with the solution that is given in the case book, and that is completely fine, because in the interviews also they are not looking for a particular answer. They are more interested in seeing how many ideas you can come up with and how comprehensive can you make your structure and how much you can think. What is your horizon basically? And then they will also, if you're not able to kind of arrive at the exact solution that they want, they'll also direct you to that solution if that is covered in your framework. So those are the most important things. So when you think of a solution, when you come up with a solution in your mind, then you can compare it with what is given in the book. And then even if it is different, you'll have two sets of solution for the same problem, because there's nothing right or wrong in consulting. It is just about the approach. You may follow a different approach and that is fine, but the approach should be just comprehensive. So that'll happen with time. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to come up with ideas. So initially, I was also not able to solve the cases fully, but then eventually you just start coming up with ideas, more and more ideas, where a case study can go, where a particular kind of case study can go, what all different approaches you can follow to solve a particular problem. So moving on to the last step, that is the mock interviews, wherein you practice the case studies with some other person. So it is a very important step. It is very crucial, and everyone will tell you that you just study one or two books and then it is all about practicing with someone else. It is true and it is very important. But having said that, if you are not able to practice with someone else, or you're not able to do mock interviews for whatever reason, like you don't have time, or you don't have someone who could invest that much time to help you practice, then it is completely fine. Don't be afraid. Self assessments are, to be very honest, something that got me through, I think, because I also didn't have that much time to do mock interviews, because I had to go to office every day. I was completing my articleship, so I didn't have that much time. But mock interviews are very important, because they help you, not so much in developing your thoughts, but in just learning to speak as you think, because that is very important, to come up with ideas instantly and make a structure on the spot in your mind and just speak. Because most of the times you won't have that much time to write everything down, and at some point of time you'll have to just start memorizing what you said and what you will say, how will that fit into that structure. So that kind of comes up after mock interviews only, so that it is very important. So what I did was, because I didn't have much time, I spent 3 4 days. We had the holy vacation, like the holy holidays. So what I did was I practiced for 3 4 days. But I did like 40 plus case studies, 40 50 case studies. I practiced 10 plus case studies every day, and it was very hectic. Trust me, it is not very ideal, because after some point of time you just go blank. You're out of ideas. But that was the thing that I did, because I had no option. But it worked for me. It might work for you as well. But you need to have that much of dedication that you do case studies back to back for 3 4 days. So these are the two options that you can do. Then next, moving on to my case interviews, like how my experience was with Bain. So what you can expect is good 3 4 rounds back to back. So my process was held in a single day, and I had 4 rounds, and the last was my partner round. So what a typical case interview or a consulting interview looks like, it starts with introduction. Tell me something about yourself, and that is just to make you comfortable, especially if you're inexperienced. So I'm talking from a fresher's perspective, because I was a fresher to consulting. So I didn't have any relevant work experience. So they are not much interested in what you did till now. What they're more interested in, are you able to solve cases? And so they want to, assess your analytical skills, your thinking capabilities, speaking skills, communication, and those kind of things. So the first question is just to make you more comfortable speaking with them. So after that, they just dive straight into the case interviews. So they give you a case problem. They'll give you a case problem that this is something. So give us a solution and come up with recommendations. This is what a typical case problem looks like. So and the interview goes on for like 25 to 30 minutes. So you have to wind your case study up in that time only. I know it sounds too long, but it is not when you start doing case studies. So that will be also a challenge. So eventually when you start doing mock interviews, start to time yourself and try to complete the interview in under 30 minutes. So my first round was a profitability case only, but it was very, very different. And I made a complete framework, like the most comprehensive framework. And they said, that there's nothing in this that has a problem. Think about something else. So again, as I said, that they just want you to think. They want you to come up with as many ideas as possible. It is not about the right answer. And then it so happens sometimes that even if they have a specific answer, but they will kind of deviate from that answer if they see that you're not comfortable with certain thing, or they maybe want to, they found an idea in your framework that they want to hear more about. So they may also deviate from the right answer, but they will direct you through the entire interview. So don't be afraid that if you're stuck also, just be very, very communicative and just tell them that I'm stuck and not able to think right now that which direction, can you point me in the right direction. So just ask a lot, they will guide you. So even like when you make a framework also, you make buckets, that this the problem can be in this or this. Just ask them that do you want me to start with something first, uh, so that, because it does not make sense that you just tell them about each and every element in detail, and then they tell you, okay, there's no problem in any of these, because that'll just waste your time only. So you're at the loss, because you have to wind up that case study in 30 minutes. So if you waste time on the elements that are not really important in arriving at the final answer, then you have left yourself with lesser time, so it is your loss. So it is better that after you make those buckets, you ask that do you want me to start with something first. So they'll point you in the direction they want the case study to go, and then you can go forward. So that is one tip. And then my final round was a partner round. So in partner round, it is also the same. It starts with an introduction, and then you move on to the case interview. But one additional things that happened in partner round, what happened with me was that they want to assess whether your culture is suitable for their organization. So they'll ask you a couple of more questions, that why that particular organization, like why Bain, why do you want to join us, or what you did till now, will you be able to fit in here, and those kind of questions. So they're very generic questions, and you can totally deal with them on the spot, and you don't need to prepare much for that. Then the last segment, the tips and tricks. So I would say that first of all, when you're preparing, just do a lot of self assessment and practice a lot. Practice a lot, even if you're not able to find someone, just practice by yourself. But practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to come up with ideas. Then the second would be that during the interviews also, take time initially, take like 2 3 minutes, go 2 3 minutes, write everything down, divide it into buckets, even divide it into sub buckets. So it is recommended to you know think of a structure till 2 levels down, and then start speaking. So once you take that much time and you start speaking, they point in whatever direction they do, and you have to further drill down. Don't take much time, because that is what I realized when I was taking someone else's interview, that if you think at every step, you lose the interviewer's interest, because you are writing everything down and the interviewer is just focusing on you. So what will that person do? He or she will lose interest, right? So just, I know it is very tough, but the when you'll practice, when you do more and more mock interviews, that is what you'll develop. That you'll learn to speak as you think. So that is what mock interviews are for. So take time initially, but the more you go forward, start taking lesser time and thinking on your feet and everything. And about guesstimates also, calculators are not allowed. So just try to round off the numbers, and yeah, just don't go about calculating multiplying like 833 by 718. Just round off the numbers and tell them that I'm rounding them off for ease of calculation. And yeah, just be confident, be very, very confident. Trust me, it is possible. It is possible to get into consulting even if you don't have a relevant work experience for the first time. It is very much possible, because I think it was not possible, especially without a rank. I'm like, they would all only take rankers, but it is possible. Everything is possible. You just have to practice, 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 and be very, very confident. And that's it. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, leave it down in the comments, and I'll try and cover that also. And this being my first video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.